This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Good evening, friends, and welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout. It's great to be back with you again. I'm your host, Larry Lawson, coming to you from the mothership of paranormal programming, the X-Zone Broadcast Network. You know, as always, it's my goal on this show to present to all of you guests and commentary that are going to challenge your views of the paranormal, whether it be cryptozoology, UFOs, or ghosts. We here at the Paranormal Stakeout champion research and the search for intellectual truth in our quest to prove beyond reasonable doubt the existence of worlds beyond our own. To do that, I look for those investigators, researchers, and practitioners who are in the field, on the line, conducting the investigations and experiments, and gathering that evidence to prove our case beyond a reasonable doubt. And to continue our journey this week, it is an honor and a privilege to welcome Dr. Bernard Beitman to the show. Dr. Beitman, MD, is the first psychiatrist since Carl Jung to write a major book about synchronicity. He is a visiting professor at the University of Virginia and former chair of the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Missouri-Columbia. He attended Yale Medical School and completed his psychiatric residency at Stanford. He has received 2 national awards for his psychiatric annals that focus on meaningful coincidences and is a founder of the new discipline of coincidence studies. Dr. Beitman is the author of many articles on the subject and is also the author of the book Connecting with Coincidence, the New Science for Using Synchronicity and Serendipity in Your Life. Dr. Beitman also hosts the very popular and highly rated radio show Connecting with Coincidence right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. I'd like to invite you to check his website at Coincider, that's COINCIDER.com, or you can email him at Dr. Beitman, MD, Dr. Bernie, MD, at xzbn.net. Dr. Beitman, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Larry. Great intro. Thanks a lot.
Well, I got to tell you, in looking at some of your stuff, I caught something in an article written back in 2015 by Terry McIsaac, Frontier Science, Dr. Bernard Beitman on Coincidence Studies. And the banner went like this: like all frontiersmen, he was not content to enter these strange places and turn back without further exploration. When I read that, I knew you were a man after my own heart. So I'm really glad to have you here. This is a fascinating study. Tell me a little bit about it. Tell me how you got into the study of coincidence and what that really means in your field of study.
Well, it started with a coincidence with my dog when I was 8 or 9 years old. I had come home from school in Shaker Heights, Ohio, and thought my dog was going to be there and say, "Hey, Mom, where's Snapper?" That's the name of the dog. Where's Snapper? And she says, "Oh, why don't you go to the police station and see if maybe they know where he is?" So I got on my bike and crossed the big road, went up this big stairs into the police station, saw the big man behind the big desk and asked him, have you seen my dog? And he said, no. And so I started crying, went down the stairs and made the wrong turn. Instead of crossing the big street, I went to the right. And guess who I ran into? There was Snapper walking towards me. And somehow that stuck with me. I loved that dog. I needed that dog. I found that dog, or he found me. And that was a coincidence that has stayed with me.
To this day, yeah. I've had similar instances like that myself. As we talk about what is synchronicity, I know you've got 5 basic terms that you use to round out the study. But can you give us synchronicity? What do you mean by that?
Well, The most correct answer to that question, Larry, is that synchronicity means meaningful coincidences and also means an acausal connecting principle.
Mm-hmm.
And the term synchronicity was invented by Carl Jung, and it originally meant falling together in time, in synchron time, synchronicity.
Okay.
Well,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, that was a first definition. So the definition of the word synchronicity has expanded beyond the reach of my arms and way. There's a lot of different meanings to synchronicity.
Okay.
And I could go on a lot about that too. But what Jung did also was say, I can explain synchronicity. I can explain how mind and object somehow seem similar. I can explain that with a principle that is acausal, meaning it doesn't follow the way that regular science understood reality.
Okay. And how does that meld with coincidence?
How would you define a coincidence?
Coincidence would be something that just, wow, that's interesting. That happened. That guy walks in and he introduced me to somebody that got me this new job. It's a coincidence that I met him. Oh, hey, that's our sound. We got to take a quick break for these important messages. Dr. B will be back with you on the other side. This is Paranormal Stakeout with Larry Lawson.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere, Florida. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine such as hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining rooms can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you visit, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic downtown Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, Old Florida cuisine at its best.
If you're a seeker, don't miss the inspiring book Shamanic Awakening, Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Cochran's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers throughout the Americas. Sandy's initiations across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt, combined with her knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth, influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private readings, sacred international journeys, a meditative CD, and her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate your earth walk and create a deeper connection to yourself. Find this and more at her website, starwalkervisions.com.
Welcome back, folks, to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm your host, Larry Lawson, and we're here with Dr. Bernard Beitman tonight, a world leader in synchronicity and coincidence. Dr. Beitman, we were talking a little bit about that just before the break, synchronicity and coincidence. Understanding synchronicity is moving together in time, basically, and coincidence is kind of like things happening that put other pieces of the puzzle together. I don't know if that's a good enough description.
That's getting there. That's getting there. I'm glad to be trying to figure this out with you. Coincidence is the general name for things like synchronicity, serendipity, and a term I invented called simulpathity. It's the general term. It's the category. And synchronicity has tended to mean either all kinds of coincidences, including serendipity, or a specific kind, one where a mental event matched a physical event, where the mind and an object matched. And that became a form of synchronicity. But there are other forms of coincidences that don't fit that. So I'm trying to categorize these different forms.
Is that why they sometimes call you Dr. Coincidence?
And that's for different reasons.
Different reasons, okay. Care to share?
Dr. Coincidence emerged a little bit later and became an alter ego of Dr. Beitman. And this alter ego tended to experience more coincidences than did Dr. Beitman.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Well, as we talk about this interesting subject, of course, it brings my mind into the world of paranormal investigation.
Yes.
And the first question I've got to ask you, because a lot of times you'll be, like I described before, you'll be driving down the road and you'll see a sign, or you'll see a car, you'll see somebody beside the road that will suddenly remind you that you had to do something, or you had to call somebody, or you meet somebody that sets you up into a position where you get a better job. Coincidental? Many people feel that there actually may be a guardian angel or something in the spiritual world that's guiding you. What's your thoughts on that?
Yes. I realize that I have scientific thinking, and it's a kind of a form that's I won't describe now, but but to answer your question, I can't, because it's not an either or with coincidences and their explanations. There are probably 4 or 5 good explanations for different coincidences. So part of my categorization is to try to categorize by possible explanation. And the ones that are angel ones are ones that we can't explain in more conventional terms. And the more conventional terms are sometimes just people having conflicts or difficulties and ending up using what's in their environment as a springboard towards change. And I can give examples of that, but these are psychodynamic coincidences. Some are explainable mostly by probability. And some of them, and this is where I thought we might get to, Larry, you and me, is talk about psi, talk about telepathy, clairvoyance, and precognition, talk about what I call human GPS, which is a variation on those things, because coincidences alert us to the mysterious hiding in plain sight, and sometimes that mysterious is psi events to help people recognize that they have psi abilities.
Hmm. So I'm a cop. You're a doctor. Both of us deal with absolutes. I need physical evidence to take a case to trial to convict a bad guy. You need to determine what is ailing somebody, whether it be physical, mental, or whatever. So there's a real exacting. We need exact pieces of evidence. How do we connect this line of thinking with what you and I do professionally? And I have this problem in the paranormal world, because evidence that you can hold in your hand is not exactly easy to come by. Making sense? Do you see where I'm coming from with this? How do you
Precisely. That's very good. Where's the evidence come from? Where does the evidence come from for, let's say, simulpathity, this term that I invented? Where does it come from? Simulpathity means feeling simultaneously, feeling at the same time, at the same time feeling, pathy feeling, simulpath feeling at the same time at a distance. That's what I mean by simulpathity, feeling someone's pain at a distance. And
something like two twins feeling the other one being hurt the other side of the country.
You betcha.
Okay, I got you.
You betcha. And regular people besides twins, people who are close to each other and sometimes not so close to each other, have the same thing happen. Similar things happen. That is the original definition of telepathy. Tele, at a distance, pathy, feeling. So that was what telepathy first meant, then became cognitive, became about thoughts. So I added simulpathity to make up for this subcategory of kind of telepathy, but it's physical feeling telepathy that I call simulpathity.
Interesting. Well, I definitely want to get into the discussion here in just a little bit. But let me throw this at you then, because once again, I investigate ghostly events. That's my thing.
Oh, really? Okay. Ghostly events.
Ghostly events. Paranormal investigations, ghost investigations, and a lot of interesting things have happened. Recently happened. Go ahead. No, go ahead. It sounds like I hit a nerve there.
Yeah, because I've been reading about names for spirit and breathing and breath. And a bunch of the languages, breath and spirit are the same word. In Hebrew, it's ruach. In Greek, it's atman. In Latin, in Sanskrit, it's atman. In Latin, it's spiritus. And in Greek, it's pneuma. And they both, each word means spirit and breath. So when we were just, what we were just talking about reminded me of how those two get intermingled.
Okay. And that the term spirit and how that's used with mediums or sensitives is another subject. Maybe you and I can even hit another time, because I'd like to discuss that. But
do you know in German what the word Geist?
That's essentially a spirit or ghost or.
Is that the same as what the kind of ghost you go for, the Geists of the German, the German Geist?
Not. Yes, and all of the above. Any spirits that are out there. See, then that's part of my thing where I'm trying to go. I believe, based upon personal events as well as historic events that have been recorded, I believe that there's something else out there. Not quite sure yet what it is. And that's where I'm going. That's where I'm trying to collect the evidence. And that's why your particular field is so interesting to me, because it comes now to a question in my mind that I'll ask you now. Is this, are coincidences, is hearing that thing in your head say to you, oh, you got to call this person, you got to go somewhere, oh, you forgot to do this, is that a spirit talking to you, or is it part of that unlocked piece of our mind? Because it's no secret, we only use 10% of our brain. So is this some sort of use of our brain that we have not yet developed yet? Or is it something in the spiritual world? And that's a question I wanted to ask you.
And a question I ask you is, why do you put so many ors in there when each answer is true sometimes?
Okay, you kind of lost me on that one. Probably because I'm always looking at every different angle is the best way to put that one.
Well, I'm saying that the list you gave of explanations for coincidences between which you put ors, as if it had to be either or, there really is a good list of the possible ways to think about how coincidences happen.
Okay.
Some of them about how generally they happen. But I'm hearing that you are what you're interested in is some kind of intelligence or multiple intelligences like angels, but something that's has a mind that is something like ours but different, and you are sensing that this mind is out there, these minds are out there. Is that what you're thinking?
Not necessarily. I'm almost asking, is it our own mind? I saw a very interesting study, and I talked to I had a guest on the show not too long ago that talked about a term that I use, projection. And one of the experiences that I had was, or watched, was an experiment where they took a group of people, had them think of a word so heavily that they tried to create an EVP out of it. Okay? In other words, you could hear it on a recorder what they were thinking, the power of the mind to do that. Where I'm going at with you and the coincidence angle of it, and I'm asking you, is this our own mind creating the power of our own mind to creating these coincidences, or is it a spiritual angle? Are there angels? That's what I'm asking.
And that's why that's where I'm saying don't use the or between the spiritual and how much we're doing it, because there isn't an or. There are some that we do have a lot to do with making happen, or what we're thinking about has something to do, if not a lot to do, with what happens in front of us. And it sometimes we're not doing it consciously, and that's where you get into what you're wondering about is where, and this is the question. This is the way I envision this, that where our impersonal minds expand into our personal subconscious and what we might call unconscious, and that personal sub and unconscious then blends into the collective unconscious of the human race. And I'm going to add for the planet consciousness, just because it's more. We're not the only ones that have consciousness. The trees have consciousness, forests have consciousness, a lot of things have consciousness, various kinds of consciousness. But then there is this something else. There's something beyond these unconsciouses that have to do with us and the world we're in. And that's a spirit something or other. There is something out there. And in that something out there, there are, I think, envision, feel, sense, buzzing little like electrical mind things that are having some kind of activity that could be influencing us here. Now, the name I've heard for that I love the best, you know, John Lilly, he did the float tanks.
Yes.
Sensory deprivation. Dolphin.
Yes.
Well, he came up with this phrase, Earth Coincidence Control Office, which is where coincidences are created.
Interesting.
It's a name for what I think, Larry, you're talking about.
Yeah, it sounds like it is, and see, that's the thing that I struggle with, evidence-wise. And when we're about ready to go on our next break here in just a few seconds, and when we get back, I want to explore that a little bit more, if you don't mind. That's exactly where I was heading. I really appreciate this discussion. I'm already learning quite a bit, and when we get back from our break, we're going to pick this up where we get back. So we'll see you on the other side. Larry Lawson, Paranormal Stakeout. We'll see you in just a few seconds after this break.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the four corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, soul balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world.
Welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout with my guest, Dr. Bernard Beitman. Doctor, this is one interesting conversation. I'd like to pick up where we left off. We were kind of discussing coincidence. Is it influenced by the spirit world, or is it influenced by the power of our own minds? And if you want to pick up from there where we just discussed, and I'd like to keep that going.
Yeah, see what you think about this. There are some coincidences that are just defy any possible cause. They seem so low probability, and I call these ultra low probability coincidences. And when you get some of these ultra low ones, you gotta wonder. You got to think there's some other intelligence operating. The probabilities are too low for just kind of random, because statisticians like to say that in large populations any possible event can take place, by which they mean is that if it happened, then it could happen, which is reasoning that I can go over again, but it's tautological. It runs around itself. So there's a lot of limits to probability thinking, but it's a valuable way of understanding how a coincidence looks and operates to estimate its probability. But that doesn't explain it. And these ones that are really low probability ones, they're so complicated that you have to imagine a mind did it, because random will never do it.
But if a mind, okay, all right, and if a mind did it, that's one thing. But do you believe, or have you found evidence that there is a spiritual connection, or like you said, a greater mind? Have you found evidence of that?
Well, I like the way you earlier were making a similar about evidence, but I don't. The only hard evidence I have are confessions, because I don't get anything. I'm a psychiatrist. I give people pills. I do psychotherapy with them, and there's not a lot of evidence to get, but other than what they tell me, and what I can observe about them is sometimes helpful. So I'm much fuzzier about evidence than you are, because I have to be.
Understandable, and I totally understand that about your world, and I can also see that in the world of those that are mediums or sensitives. They are kind of in the same boat, because they are telling us what they see and feel, very sincere. And I've met some that I wouldn't trust at all, and others that I feel very confident they're telling me what they're really feeling. But how do you get that evidence? So this kind of is going to lead into my next question. Where is science taking us? Are we getting closer? Is there a possibility that we could ever reach a point where this type of data could be collected in any way to serve as evidence? And evidence more in your world than mine, because I'm looking for a shell casing or something like that. Evidence for you, you're right, is the confession or the words of your patients. Are we getting any closer to finding that answer in science, in your opinion?
Yes.
Okay.
We are getting closer to finding answers. And the question that I keep hearing from you is how much of it is in our own minds and how much of it is outside of us. And that what you want to know is to have evidence of something outside of our minds. But you need to put aside our minds first, right?
Right. Well, absolutely. In fact, a lot of what I've recently experienced, I wonder how much of it is our own minds. So you're 100% right. I agree with you.
All right. What is our own mind? How do you define the limits of Larry's mind? It's almost as
some people would say very little, but that's another story for a different day.
Well, Rob wouldn't. Rob wouldn't. So we know that. But what are the limits of your mind? And I think it expands and contracts. I think your mind goes inside your skull, kind of, but then expands outside sometimes, and in ways we don't understand yet, can project itself over great distances, which simulpathity has demonstrated it can. And what I'm looking for evidence, my way of thinking about it is that I look for the jury more than the evidence, the way you do it. What I'm looking for are large numbers of people who say, yes, I have experienced the pain of a loved one at a distance.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's evident. That's the kind of evidence that I can go for.
And I see that evidence as being very usable when you have it's almost like you're getting the information in a controlled environment, and you're getting a sample of 100 people, and 85% of them are able to say, I felt something, I saw something, and you're able to prove it by talking to the other side. To me, that's evidence. Does
Well,
that make sense?
I'm not as even strict as you. I didn't have a controlled environment. All I was interested in was the same kind of thing. Maybe you've heard about this, that if it used to be that there were no such things as black swans. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
There were no such things as black swans. And then somebody said, if you find one black swan, you're going to find that's going to mean there's going to be more black swans. So go to Australia, you see one black swan, and there were lots more black swans. So if you see an example of one thing, particular type of coincidence, for example, then you know that there are going to be others like it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I can see exactly where you're coming from on that one, and you got to understand my whole take on this, and we go back to that evidence thing. I try, it's my goal, my vision, to eventually be able to create a database of information that will allow folks on your side of the fence, the physical investigator side of the fence, of myself, perhaps those on the sensitive mediumship side, all the opportunity to get this type of evidence that is realistic in our own worlds, our own fields, and put it together to create the evidence we need to prove the existence of.
Okay, this is where you and I are on a different road on this thing, because you want to use evidence to convince somebody of something, right? Isn't that what you want the evidence for?
Well, yeah, that's the nature of me. Yes.
That's what you go to court and you say, hey, I'm right here because this proves it. Okay, you want to convince somebody with evidence. I mean, I hear that in you. And what I want to do is convince people through their own experience.
Okay. So
that's very different from what you're trying to do.
Well, it isn't. It isn't. I mean, if you're able to convince somebody or show somebody that their feelings, what they're feeling or what they're experiencing is real, that's still an important piece of evidence, especially if you have a number of people you're able to do that with. So I don't know that we're really all that far off, at least in my opinion. But let me throw this new curveball at you. When you look at the,
I remember a curveball I struck out at the bottom of the seventh in college. I mean,
you don't like curveballs.
I couldn't handle a curveball. I couldn't handle a curveball.
Well, let me just mention this to you then, and this I think is goes along with your term simulpath. Help me with that. Simulpathity.
Simulpathity, yeah.
Simulpathity. The term remote viewing, the ability to see beyond, do you see any connection between that and that term, simulpathity?
Absolutely.
Okay. How do you think that occurs? How does that happen? Not how you think. How does that happen?
That being the similarity between clairvoyance and simulpathity, right? The ability to know, one by feeling, the other by visual, what's going on someplace other than where you are.
Okay. Is that the power of the mind, or is it a spiritual event? Is that some people talk about the spirit leaving the body? That's where I'm going with this, and I want to get your opinion on that.
I still am looking for kind of regular science, kind of advanced science ideas, rather than spirit, which has so many different definitions, so many different ways to think about it. It's a floating definition, even in one person's mind. What spirit means or spiritual means, it means a lot of different things. So I have a feeling for it, but I try to get a little more concrete. So I invent an idea of something I think is there. It's kind of like imagining it without having proof of it. But I think there's a thing that I call the psychosphere, that is our mental atmosphere, of which all our minds are a part. That we breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. It's the same thing we do with breathing in, metaphorically, ideas and energy and breathing them out, our mental atmosphere.
Okay. So are we more feeling that it's this ability is more of an energy related event rather than a spiritual event? If I'm saying that right?
I think now the word spiritual encompasses some energetic experience as well as some more ethereal ones. So this is more, I think, energetic, but still in what people might think of as spiritual, because between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere, which is about 40 miles up sometimes, it varies. The ionosphere is filled with ions, positive and negative charged particles. And so it's negative, and the Earth, so the ionosphere itself is positive, and the Earth is negative. So between the ionosphere and the Earth, there's a charge, a positive and negative charge. And in this space between the ionosphere and Earth is an electromagnetic cavity that supports the existence of a 7.8 or 8 hertz wave that goes around the Earth all the time and every time, and surrounds us now. This vibrational thing called the Schumann resonance. We are immersed in it, and I think it affects us, but we don't know it clearly enough. And through this sphere, this psychosphere, I think we communicate in ways that we call telepathy and simulpathy.
Well, and probably I'm not describing it well, but you're actually making a lot of this much clearer to me. So what we're seeing is maybe the not yet to be unlocked powers of our mind is creating a lot of this, and the energy that's created by these ununlocked parts of our brain, if that makes sense. You're talking, it's more of our own energy than some sort of godlike event or angel event. That's what I'm hearing.
That's very good, because I hadn't put it that clearly.
Okay.
You helped sharpen what I was thinking about.
Well, go ahead.
I think the Anlage, I like that German. It's for the basis upon which the psychosphere is built. What isn't all our human minds, and that is what you heard me say, and thank you for clarifying that. But what I'm suggesting is the Schumann resonance existed before the human mind existed on Earth, because that resonance is created by the thousands of per second of lightning strikes that go on in our atmosphere. And these lightning strikes create this wave, the Schumann resonance, and the lightning keeps generating it. So the Schumann resonance occurred long before, I think, human beings got on Earth.
And that would also include, if I'm going to take a shot at this, the use of frequency. Would you agree?
Yes.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? I'm Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, and on The Secret to Everything, we will merge the practical with open investigation into all realms of the mysterious. We will talk to cutting-edge alternative health practitioners, those who inspire and motivate you in business and life, and of course, we will share stories of the paranormal, conspiracy, and cryptozoology. You will transform because of the frequency I carry, the frequencies my guests carry. Life may never be the same after you listen to this program, for the secret to everything is for you, the listener, for those who desire more in every area of their lives and believe that it can still be found. Listen and discover thesecrettoeverything.com.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout with tonight's guest, Dr. Bernie Beitman. Please be sure to visit Dr. Beitman at his website, Coincider, that's COINCIDER.com, or email him at drberniemd@xzbn.net. Please don't forget to tune into Dr. Beitman's show, Connecting with Coincidence, and all of the other outstanding programming on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. You can visit us on www.xzbn.net for program schedules to find out when all these great shows are available. I'd also like you to invite you to visit me at www.paranormalstakeout.com or www.paranormalfbi.com and on Facebook at the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation. Feel free to contact me also at larrylawson@xzbn.net. Well, Dr. Beitman, I'm really enjoying this. It's opening up a lot of new worlds for me, I can tell you that.
Well, thank you.
You know, a lot of times folks in my business and in your business do have to come together for this. And I know I've been harping a lot on the evidence, but I guess that's really
good. It's good. It's good. Keep doing it. I wish I could harp on the evidence.
Well, see, by doing this, I've got a two-phase goal here. One is I'm a detective by nature, and that's what I do. That's what I spent most of my life doing. I want to find the answers, but I also want to open up this world that it's going into so many different directions, and I want to bring it and focus it into an arena where we can show that this does exist. Now, a lot of it has to do with faith. A lot of things.
Fate?
Faith or faith.
Faith.
You could
Faith.
use both.
Faith. They sound almost the same, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And in a sense, maybe they are the same here, because there's a lot of things that we take on faith, but there's a lot of things that happen. It's almost like our fate. So yeah, I see the difference or the similarities between the two. But when I say faith, you're taking on faith things that your clients or your patients may be saying, and I'm taking on faith some of the things that I can't explain as a detective, a guy that goes out and figures out crime. I'm still taking some things on faith based upon my experiences, and that's a kind of a strange thing for me. And where I'm going at,
when you say taking on faith, what do you mean?
well, okay. For example, I hear an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, on a recorder. I can't prove that came from the other side. You understand what I'm saying? But
Yeah, I do.
based upon what has occurred during the rest of that investigation, based upon perhaps my research into the area or the house or the building that I'm in, and that EVP coincides with my research, I'm taking it on faith that it is probably connected to somebody in the past there. But I can't prove that in court. Yet I'm taking it on faith. And what I want to ask you is, where does faith come into, and faith in what you're doing, not necessarily faith in a religion, but faith in what you're hearing or what you're seeing? How big a part of is that for you?
I'd like to go back to evidence.
Okay, we can do that.
There's a one called there's a story about the Stockholm fire, or was it Copenhagen? I get them mixed up. And there was a guy in Iceland. This is like in early 1900s, late 1800s. This guy in Iceland was a seer. Could get into the next world, and
Okay.
he told in front of some people that there was a fire in Stockholm,
Mm-hmm.
and it was going on now, and he described where it was and what it was. It really wasn't. No, excuse me. It wasn't the medium. The medium was saying the words of a guy in the next world, describing the Stockholm fire and describing where it was and how he lived near there where the fire was, but he had died. So the people listening to this in Iceland went to the head of the Catholic Church there, and told him the story, because they wouldn't find out if there actually was a Stockholm fire for 3 days, if that was going on right then, because that's how long it took the boats to get from Europe to Iceland.
Mm-hmm.
So they found out when the boat arrived that there was indeed a Stockholm fire. So one of the investigators from Iceland, many years later, tried to pin down who this guy was that was talking through the medium. And they pretty much identified him from a few things the medium had said, and could say that indeed a guy with those characteristics lived in that part of Stockholm where the fire was.
Interesting.
That's evidence, I think.
And I would agree with you. And I guess that's where I was kind of going. Sometimes we evidence in a court of law is so much different than sometimes the evidence we have out here, and you just gave a perfect example of that. I tend to do things where if I've got somebody using a piece of equipment, hearing an EVP, and maybe getting some sort of a sensitive feeling, I've got a sensitive involvement group, and I get 3 pieces of evidence that lead towards the same thing, I would consider that the beginning of evidence in that investigation. So it is different. But what I was kind of wanting to know from you is how much of what you're hearing do you put just blind faith in? Any of it? Blind faith in what your clients are saying, or what you're getting from them? Is faith an issue at all for you, or is it? I don't know if I'm getting that right.
Well, I just have to remind you that back in the early 70s there was a great album called Blind Faith It's still got some great songs going for it. That's the most blind faith that I could embrace. I try to be able to have some idea that something could be there, but there are times when I have the experience of something greater than I am, something bigger than I am, a voice that comes from outside of me, that I can feel comes from outside of me. And how do I know that it does? Well, it turns out that I think my view of the world and helping humanity is more about personal experiences and personal understanding of oneself and how that can help their relationships to other people, rather than focusing on trying to do a very difficult job of evidence that you're trying to do. I think it's really hard.
Oh, it is very hard, but faith has to be part of it. And I guess that's what I'm getting at least in my mind. You have to have an element of faith that there is something out there. I'll be honest with you. If I didn't believe there was something out there, perhaps greater than us, perhaps if I didn't have some sort of faith that it was out there, I could not go forward. And that's really the point that I'm trying to drive to, at least for myself. And, does that guide you at all? Does that faith that there is that something else out there keep driving you forward?
You just did a kind of a double reverse twist thing.
Well, I'm good at that.
That that there is something greater than us out there.
That's the faith part of it, right?
And if there weren't, you wouldn't go on living.
Well, I wouldn't say go on living. I would say go on looking for it, and that's the conflict that I have as a professional investigator. I have to have hard evidence, but I have the faith that there's something greater out there, and that's what keeps me going. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, it keeps you going to look for it. You mean?
Exactly.
Well, I didn't know that. I needed that last couple of words there to be able to know what you're talking about, because I didn't know that one.
Okay.
Yeah, you kind of. I think there's a lot of people thinking kind of like this. Hey, Mother, something out there. There's something happening out there. There is something happening, and I don't know what it is. Do you, Mr. Jones? And Mr. Jones never answers that question. There's something happening here. It's not particularly clear, but we know that it's happening. And each of us with our own little minds, stuck in our own little unique 3 to 4 dimensional space. Nobody else is where I am. Nobody else is where you are. Thinking our thoughts about the nature of reality and using our experiences to try to figure it out, and then talking with other people to see what might be going on. But we all have a lot of us have a sense there's something more happening around here. Wish I knew what it was. Wish I knew how I could use it. And coincidences are everyday possibilities to experience the greater mind and the questions about the nature of reality that so many people are wondering about.
Exactly. And then there goes my question is it us, or is it the spiritual world that's guiding us, or is it a combination of both? And I think what I'm getting for you, it's a combination of both.
As it's combination of both, and thank you, a combination of both. But as our minds expand, we become where some of these outside spirits have been. Our minds expands to include their capacity, as they continue to have a greater capacity.
And that is exactly, and it's great because we're getting towards the end of our time together, and that's exactly where I wanted this to go, is that expansion of our minds, our understanding that our minds are limited, but they're growing all the time. And your studies with coincidence and synchronicity, I think, have taken us millions of steps forward in understanding that and helping people understand the importance of expanding our minds. So
Thank you.
I appreciate your work. I appreciate your time, Doctor. It's been a great show tonight. I wish we had more time to talk, but we're getting towards the end of it. I want to remind everybody to visit with Dr. Beitman at his website, coincide.com, or get a hold of him at Dr. Bernie, MD at xzbn.net.